Welcome to the annual D9Sports.com EYT Media Group District 9 Basketball Playoff Show. It's brought to you by exploreClarion.com, coming soon. Free local news and information covering Clarion Forest, Jefferson, and Venango counties. I'm Rich Rhodes. The guys with the computers, first to the right is Andy Close. Guy on the left with the laptop is Chris Rossetti. We do this every year talking about District 9 basketball. Guys, what's different this year right out of the gate here as we just got the pairings and it's time to talk some basketball playoffs? Chris?
Well, they changed the way that they seeded, although it didn't really change anything. They tried to add a power schedule. Would that be the best way of putting it to it, where your opponent's winning percentage was taken into account now, but they doubled your winning percentage. And if you've got a headache already, that's okay. We've had a headache for months now. And what we found out was, outside of maybe one or two instances, it didn't change a dang thing.
Andy, we kind of thought that's how it was going to happen. Any surprises, really? Or we don't want to start opining too much on this, but really nothing much changed.
Honestly, it's a more complicated method of coming up what is basically the same result in terms of the seeds. So nothing much changing, although, is it perfect? No.
I think that at D9 Sports, and I think I can speak for all three of us right now, it is beyond time to have a committee sit in a room and do these seedings. Because we're at the point now where they've tried it one way, they've tried it another way, they've tried it a third way, and none of them work. They all have a math formula to them. They're all easy to defend, obviously, but they're still not working. At some point, it has to work. And I think that what you do see is right now a system that punishes certain teams because, yes, they are playing a tougher schedule, and they lose some of those games, and they may be close losses, but they're still losses, so it hurts them in the whole part where you've got your winning percentage and things like that, where another team plays nobody and has a great winning percentage. Even though you may have played some people and now you get a little bit of credit for playing them, it's not enough to change anything.
No, it's still hurting the teams that are going out and scheduling tough games in the non-conference.
It's also, Andy and Rich, I think, hurting a team like the Venango Catholic girls this year. They played 4 games early in the year without their best player, Ava Holman. I think they may have lost 3. They might have lost all 4 of those games. And now they're sitting in a situation where they're the 5th seed. Are they the 5th best girls A team? No way. Not even close to the 5th best girls A team right now. And yet they are the 5th best girls A team because they had losses without their best player. If you had a committee approach, all that gets taken care of. Sure.
And for many years, I've been covering District 9 for 20 years, Chris, and I thought a formula would be the best way to do it. That's long since left my vocabulary. I think there is no way you can satisfy all the different parts and workings within all these team schedules to come up with a perfect method. There is no perfect method other than subjectivity.
No, and you're not taking into account the strength and weaknesses of a league within a given year.
Right.
With all these, the NTL, the case, wherever you want to look, there's up years, there's down years, there are years where they're in the middle. That's another thing, apart from the non-league schedule, that has to be taken into account. And it really hasn't been with this formula.
Right. No question. You take a look at a league like the AML in boys basketball, and maybe a little less this year, but still a pretty strong league with the number of playoff teams coming out of it. And such, and maybe a DuBois Central Catholic team gets a seed that's a little lower than maybe where they should be. Or you take a look at teams coming out of the KSAC South, like a Keystone. The KSAC South may be one of the best girls basketball leagues statewide from top to bottom. You almost feel bad for a team like Union that had 5 wins this year. You think if they were in some other leagues, they would have been a lot better, but that league is good top to bottom. To me, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of subjectivity. There seems to be a thought process among District 9 people that being subjective is a bad thing. Being subjective is not a bad thing. Being subjective is what sports at the amateur level, from the colleges to a lot of high school districts across the state, are like. And this idea that we can't have it in District 9 is really just ridiculous. It's time to really seriously look at it and get beyond your idea of a math formula. Math doesn't work in this case. Statistics can lie, and in this case, the statistics lie.
Well, let's be subjective and objective as we get down these classifications. Quad A, briefly, DuBois boys are getting into a sub-regional on the boys' side. The girls are not going to the playoffs. They're involved with a District 8 and a District 10 setup, which we don't know a whole lot about yet. So the Beavers are going in. Check out the website on once we get that information. We will address more on the Beavers in Quad A. In Triple A, there are just championship games set on both sides. Time to be subjective and objective. First, let's go with the AAA girls. Andy, you covered Bradford girls quite a bit over the last several years. Mm-hmm. It's once again a rematch, Punxsutawney being the top seed against Bradford, the number 2 seed. In fact, you just covered them Friday night. What are these two teams going to do here in, I guess, probably in 10 days or 2 weeks here from tonight?
Well, it's funny. The first time they played, it was a 30-point win at Punxsutawney, and the second time they played, this past Friday, Bradford had a shot to win at the buzzer. Didn't go down, but I don't think that's a knock on Punxsy. I think it's more a testament to the improvement of the Bradford girls. And listen, everyone knew this was going to be a transition year, especially in the beginning. When you lose as much as they did, really only one starter that played real significant minutes, Riley Lundgren. Bree Wells as a freshman did a little bit. But there was a steep learning curve for a lot of these kids. And you saw it, especially early in the season, where they really struggled. But I think as the season has gone on, they've gotten a lot better, especially the last couple weeks. Back-to-back days to end the season. They lose to Punxsy and Keystone. I think most people will consider 2 of the top girls teams in the district. Both very competitive games, both by single digits.
I will say this, though. Those were both in Bradford with long trips in front of the teams that had to go there.
Yeah, they were.
I think that what you see with young teams sometimes is they play decent at home and not so much on the road.
Sure.
I'm not sure this is a competitive championship game in the end. I think that anytime you beat a team by 30 and you play them a second time, you're going to let down some.
Sure.
And I think then you add the trip to it, all that. Now I think Bradford has Punxsutawney's attention, which they probably didn't on Friday night, and now they do. And kudos to Bradford, but let's be honest, if District 9 didn't sort of under the table force Bradford to go to the playoffs, they wouldn't be in the playoffs. So, no, let's be truthful, Andy. That's the case.
And listen, the district wants a championship game, and they're going to get it.
Yeah, they're going to get the championship game, but you're dealing with a championship game with a 6-win team. Should you
not,
really have a 6-win team in the championship game?
No, but it's not the first time, nor will it probably be the last.
No,
well, once again,
not.
Past president isn't good enough reason to continue to do something that's wrong. Yeah. And too often we're like, well, it was always done that way, so it's okay. No, it's not okay.
Mm-hmm. I think when you look at the Punxsy girls, I think they feel that this is their time.
Absolutely.
They've lost to Bradford the last 2 years in the district championship game. Very senior-laden team, I believe 6 seniors. I think they feel that this is their moment. They've had a solid season, and
well, I was going to mention, I've seen him a couple times. The top scorer of the team isn't Hope Bridge, but she has been the last half dozen games. I don't know, 5'10", 5'11", very, very nice post player, very impressive. I've seen her a couple times. She's had some 20-point, 10 rebound games. I enjoyed watching her play. Nice player in the post for the Lady Chucks, and she comes off the bench, but she'll be a significant player. Yeah. Not the leading scorer, but that's my player to watch on that team.
No, and I'll disagree with you on this, Chris. I think Punxsy obviously is the favorite. I think it will be a competitive game. I don't think it might not be 1, it might not be 30, but it's going to be competitive in my opinion.
We're just going to disagree there, Andy. I'm looking at it. I mean, Bradford's lost 4 in a row coming into this. 3 of those were at home. So, we can talk about, they were close games at home, but they still lost games at home. They go on the road and they get basically blown out. They got blown out at Elk County last week. They got blown out at Warren. They got blown out.
Warren, by the way, is a state-ranked team.
Yeah, but they're still getting blown out when they go. When you look at their schedule, they get blown out on the road. They win at home. There's not a game within 15 points that they've played on the road in months. And it's
this isn't. I agree with your point. This is a neutral game. It's not a true road game.
But it's the idea of leaving the confines of Bradford, where teams are traveling over an hour to get to you. I think that now they're the team that's going to be traveling over an hour to get there. And I don't see it. Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't see them being competitive.
This is only AAA girls. We have several classifications to argue about, and we didn't think we'd get to one there. Let's get to the boys' side, AAA boys. Clearfield, what a nice turnaround season for the Bison. A young team, a new coach, Nate Glunt. He's the coach of that team. They're the top seed. Punxsutawney, defending champion. They beat Clearfield last year by 19 points. But as we will recognize here, pretty much different groups of players. Some of the players are back from last year but didn't really play major roles. I've seen Clearfield. I really like Nate. I remember I covered him when he played for Kerwinsville back in the 90s. He brings a lot of enthusiasm, and he has a couple really nice players there with Will Myers, Tommy Hazel, Cody Spade, who played briefly last year, and Eric Sellers. Some of those guys were good football players, great athletes, and a good team. Clearfield beat Punxsutawney by 10 at home. How do you guys see this one coming? And once again, first-year coach, new group at Clearfield, can they handle that? I don't know if it's a heavy burden of being the top seed. It's a team they beat by 10 earlier this year.
And first, just let me say, Nate Glunt, if he's not the coach of the year, he's certainly in the discussion. What a great job. I think I can speak for the three of us here. Clearfield wasn't on the radar at the start of the season.
Yep.
They quickly became that way. Nice group of athletes. They score a ton. Score a ton of points. And then you have Punxsutawney, who once again is the defending champion, beat Clearfield last year. Clearfield beats them in the regular season this year. But, I don't know how much you take that into account being so early in the season.
Right.
This is a Clearfield team that when you say they were scoring in bunches, they were scoring in bunches. They're not scoring in bunches quite as much down the stretch. Teams seem to have gotten some tape on them, some film on them, able to adjust to what they're doing a little bit. They've won some close games, which I think is important for any team heading into the playoffs to be able to do. But I think that you're going to find that this game is about what you saw in December. It's going to be somewhere in that 10 to 12 point range. Who wins it? I don't know who wins it. To me, it's a type of game that whoever shoots better is going to win it in this case. That I don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite here as much as I think there's a clear-cut favorite in the girls' side.
Yeah, I think you give give Clearfield a slight edge, but certainly not a shocker if the Chucks defend their title. Moving on to Double-A girls. This was a bracket last year, guys, where we felt that the seeding really wasn't fair to how it should have been. Is that the case this year? This is where one of those adjustments were made according to the new power rating. Brookville actually moved up to 5 from 6 because of it, even though they have the worse record than Brockway. Yeah, and they moved ahead of Brockway because of the formula. They are now the 5. They get to play Montauk in the 4-5 game. Winner gets top-seeded Karn City. In the bottom side of the bracket, Red Bank is the 2nd seed. They will play number 7, Kane. And Kerwinsville, the number 3 seed, will face that number 6 seed, Brockway. Guys, are we agreeing this is Karn City's bracket to lose?
I look at it this way. I don't think that seeding, it really mattered where you went with 2 through 7. I know there's going to be some of those coaches like, well, we're better than that or not better than that or whatever. There's not a huge separation between 2 through 7 there. I think there is a separation from 1, but, and this is a big but they're also very potentially playing without Leanne Gibson, their best player. And when you saw the other night against Venango Catholic, that brought them back down to the pack a little bit. Right. Did it bring them back down to the pack enough to
in Double-A?
In Double-A, probably not. When I look at that, they didn't have Leanne Gibson against Montauk last week. They still beat them.
Right.
Montauk, probably the second best team in there. They're the 4 seed. They sort of fell there in the last week, but they had a killer of a schedule. They played Keystone twice. They played Karn City, all in like a span of 3 days.
Well, yeah, here's the thing, though, that might be a factor in as far as seeding goes is, and coaches will want to get their team to state playoffs, even though they might not have a chance. The runner-up goes to states this year. So the seeding, somebody probably wanted to be that 2-3 seed rather than the 4 or 5 in that regard. But you do have a point. I think Montauk, Red Bank, Brookville, not separated by a whole lot for sure.
And let's not discount Brockway, which started out bad, but has won something like 10 of 12 down the stretch.
Right.
Dick Esposito has that team playing pretty well. They've got a pretty decent team. Maybe one of the better Brockway teams that we've seen in a while.
Well, I think of the first round matchups, we have 4 seed Montauk versus number 5 Brookville. We have 2 Red Bank versus 7 Kane, and 3 Kerwinsville with one of the district's top scorers in Sierra Strickland as a 3 seed. Facing that number 6 Brockway team, that's the game that could go to the lower seed if you're going to go. That would be my pick out of those 3 quarterfinal games. Brockway knocking off Kerwinsville. I believe they split their regular season matchups. Chris is going to look it up. Andy, that second seed, getting to the finals against Karn City and getting that one-game shot with a state playoff game in your pocket already is something that coaches like to see, want to have. I know that's maybe the discouraging part of not being seeded. That part of that's not that the bracket's not seeded right. That could rob a team out of a playoff. Well, that could be a fact.
No, and I think the unfortunate thing here is, I think every coach would admit that they wanted to avoid being on the Karn City half of the bracket. Because you look at the other side, and I think every team feels like they have a chance to get to the championship game. Yeah. I think, I like the way Brookville's been playing. Montauk has a nice team. I think it's a bad matchup for either one of those teams against Karn City.
Absolutely, and Chris just called it up. Brockway did lose twice to Kernsville. Kernsville's favored there, but that's a potential upset.
When I look at that, when I look at the bracket, I think the team that has the biggest argument that where they shouldn't be is Montauk. I think that Brookville went into this past week with an opportunity to be the second seed, and they lost 3 out of 4.
Yes.
And yes, Elena Powell did get hurt and miss a game in there and didn't play very much in another one, but they still lost the games when they had an opportunity to grab where they were at. Yeah. Montauk I feel bad for because they played a schedule that's over 500. And their schedule was about as difficult as anybody's in District 9 on the girls' side. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that probably got messed around with in the seeding the worst in all of this. Frankly, if Red Bank Valley and Karn City do not meet in the finals the way this bracket's shaping up, somebody's been upset.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Let's go to Double A boys, where Brookville last year went to the playoffs with an 8-14 record and won the title. They are back again this year as the 7 seed. Just kind of backed their way in, you could say. Obviously, 8-14, you could say back your way in any year. Same record. Guys, I've seen them all year. They're not the same team. Of course, we didn't see it coming last year when they won the district title, but they had a better resume. I didn't want to start the conversation with Brookville because they aren't the favorite in this bracket, but they are the defending champion. Cranberry's the top seed. It is a 17 bracket just like the girls. They will play the 4-5 winner between Karn City and Brockway. The second seed is Red Bank. They get to play Brookville in a rematch of last year's district final. And then the 3-6 game is Port Allegheny, the third seed, against 6 seed Montauk. Guys, how's this bracket shake up? Is Cranberry the overwhelming favorite here? Is this their bracket?
I think it's their bracket. I don't think they're an overwhelming favorite. I think they are the favorite. I think you look at a Red Bank who was there last year, wants that shot at redemption, has one of the best scorers in the district, and Jake Doherty. Cranberry, another team that's played a solid schedule, maybe peaked a little early in the season. I don't know if they're playing their best basketball right now, but I think they still are the favorite.
Their only regular season matchup, Cranberry and Red Bank, was a 51-45 win for the Bulldogs. Mm-hmm. Red Bank at home on Feb 7. Red Bank might be the favorite here. Of course, they lost to CL on Friday. CL's better than anybody in this bracket anyway.
I'm a big fan of the 5-4 winner, actually. I think the 5-4 winner may be the team to beat. Brockway was playing pretty well down the stretch. Karn City, after a slow start because of football, I think they started 1-5, has really come on. They just did lose to Montauk. That's a rivalry game, though. That's a tough one to predict. Right. I think when Andy talks about how Cranberry may have peaked early, they haven't played as well down the stretch. The KSAC North wasn't necessarily the strongest division out there. We'll get to that in A when we talk about CL a little bit. But I really like the Karn City Brockway winner. Frankly, and people can say what they want about Red Bank. Until Red Bank does it on the big stage, I'm having trouble buying them because we've seen them walk into Tippin Gym now 2 or 3 games in a row and not play very well. They struggled with Karn City in the semifinals last year. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn against Brookville in the championship game a year ago. And then on Friday night in the KSAC title game, if there was the Atlantic Ocean sitting in front of them, they may have missed it. What were they, Rich? 12 of 52 shooting or something like that?
12 of 51, 2 of 24 from the 3-point line. Hey, they haven't won a district title since 1980, so you can't expect them to.
Frankly, Red Bank Valley's got to show us something. They've got to show us that in a big game situation, when things aren't going their way, that they've got the poise to handle it. Head coach Greg Bean sat down their best their quote-unquote best player, Jake Doherty. And I'm not saying Jake's not their best player, but Jake Doherty didn't play, the last 5 or 6 minutes of the KSAC title game because of certain issues going on that they felt that they needed to try to get him to maybe refocus. If he refocuses and comes out and plays hard, they've got a legitimate shot at winning it all, because I like Sam Heater, I like Devin Shoemaker, but they've got some internal issues going on, I think, at Red Bank Valley right now. And
they got something to work through. Absolutely.
Saw it against CL, saw it a couple weeks ago against Venango Catholic. I wouldn't be stunned if Brookville walked in and beat them, the way things are going right now for them.
Back to that 4-5, I had a couple notes here. David Olsack, how about one of the more dynamic scores, 19-7 a game in the bracket, Gremlins guard we're talking about. And Brockway, you mentioned about a turnaround season. They were 1-10. I saw them at the beginning of the year. They were not a very good ball team. They have won 8 of 11 since with a win over Venango. And Chris basically alluded, the winner of that game could be the dangerous team to look at. Dave Bennett, the new coach at Brockway, is doing a heck of a job.
Well, they've got an opportunity there with a coach who coached at Penn State Du Bois and had a lot of success at a college level, even a low college level, had a lot of success. So you can't obviously look at that and be like, hey, and plus he's a Aaron Straub disciple.
Grad,
he played under Aaron at Elk. So, there's some things going on for them that I really like. The guy that doesn't get mentioned with Karn City, and the thing we asked going into the year was who was going to replace Logan Maroney, who didn't go out for basketball. Imagine if Logan Maroney had gone out for basketball this year. He doesn't, but Dalton Callahan has stepped up and been a tremendous player for the Gremlins. Andy, one of the teams that maybe we don't hear about a whole lot in this bracket because nobody else in AA sees them is Port Allegheny.
Yeah, they're the third seed, by the way.
Yeah, Port Allegheny Jason Luther they're a well-coached team, have a nice, score. Jordan Seafelt averaging around 16 a game, a very nice guard. Toughness inside with Trey Garzel. They're not a flashy team. They're not a team that's going to score a lot. They're going to rely on solid defense and execution on the offensive end. Had a nice season in the North Tier League. People will argue how good the North Tier League is this year. A little top-heavy maybe, but
I think it's been better than it has been in the last couple of years.
It has been. I think the problem with Port is, I like them. They're a tough-minded team. They're a good group, but at times this year they have really struggled to put the ball in the basket, and that would be the one knock on them. That I would be afraid to pick them. But at the same time, you could also look at them as a dark horse. Are they good enough? When they're at the top of their game and when they're scoring consistently, and Seafeld's doing his thing to maybe sneak in and get to the title game. I don't know. I think it's a possibility.
It's an interesting matchup they have with Montauk in the first round because Montauk's another team that, frankly, until they beat Karn City last week, I thought it was sort of strange that they were going to the playoffs. I didn't really see them as a playoff team. Right. They do have 2 players, Cody Skyver and James Bear, who do the vast majority of their scoring. But maybe they're playing better basketball here at the end of the year. So what I love about this bracket is a lot like last year's bracket when Brookville came out of a lower seed and won it. I really feel like anybody can win Class AA right now.
Yeah. You're not going to get any arguments from us.
I guess
is there a reason maybe why AA has been so wide open?
I don't think any of the teams have been a very consistent program lately, to be frankly. I think that's it.
I think that probably the most consistent of those programs of late has really been Cranberry, maybe. Yeah. They haven't won it in a few years now. But Pat Irwin, who, you want to talk about Dave Bennett playing for Aaron Straub, Pat Irwin, the coach at Cranberry, playing for Greg Heath, another one of the disciples of District 9 basketball.
Right.
And that team, and we're sort of saying maybe they're not playing their best ball, but that team goes 4 deep, and they've got a big guy inside in Janoko Swart, who we don't really talk about a whole lot, but he's 6'5". They've got Jacob Creighton. You want to talk about basketball bloodlines? His uncle is Scott Creighton, the head coach at Du Bois, who won state titles with the Cranberry girls team as a coach. So there's a lot of basketball knowledge going on there. Tim Swartzfager, they've got some players to go with some things at Cranberry. So maybe they are the favorites when you really cut down to it all.
Well, Brookville's won 3 of the last 4 titles going into this year. This year, the expectations, I don't think were for them to win it. I think if a team with a losing record wins the bracket this year, the rest of the team should have a 1-year playoff ban, and that should be vacated the next year. I'm just saying. Class A girls. 13-team bracket, I believe. Did I get that right? Yeah, yes. 13-team bracket. Elk County Catholic undefeated They are the top seed, number 1. Number 2, Port Allegheny on the other end of the bracket. Number 3 is Keystone, and then the 4th seed is Smethport. Last year, 3 of the 4 teams that went to state are in the bottom part of that bracket. You have Port Allegheny was 3rd. Keystone lost to Clarion. They were the runner-up. Clarion, if they win their first round, the defending champs, if they win their first round matchup with Otto Eldred on the road, and we'll get to that in a second, they get a chance to play Keystone in the quarterfinals. That's who Keystone plays. Guys, Elk County Catholic, the top seed. Again, they've won the last district title in 2010. Very intriguing. This is a very intriguing concept, debate, I should say. Can an undefeated? How good is Elk County Catholic? They don't really have a superstar player. They probably don't have a first-team all-district player as of right now. They don't. They have a girl. Their leading scorer has 11. Averaging around 11. They don't have a superstar. That might be a testament to their depth. We don't know yet. We have doubts.
And I want to put this, at least from my perspective, this argument to bed once and for all. You do not need to have an elite scorer to be an elite team. And they're proving it. You watch them play, they don't, nothing they do really stands out. They don't have, as you alluded to, Rich, a girl averaging over 11 points a game. But they play well together, they're well coached, they're tough. And I think they're getting knocked a little bit being undefeated just because they don't have a star player.
I think that there's a second issue here. They're not playing anybody.
Well,
no. Do you put Elk County Catholic in the KSAC South with Keystone, Montauk, Garden City? Do they go undefeated?
They don't go undefeated, but that's the point you make is a good one. But just because they don't go undefeated doesn't mean that they're not in the same class as those teams.
It also doesn't mean that they are.
No, it doesn't.
And frankly, I would disagree with you. You said you don't have to have a superstar to be an elite team. You have to have a superstar to be an elite team. You can be a really good team. You can even potentially be a District 9 champion without a superstar. You are not winning a state title without a superstar.
Right.
You're not playing deep into the state playoffs without a superstar.
They could win this bracket, I guess, is what we're saying. How good they are beyond that is anybody's guess. I think the top of the bracket is until that semifinal round. We should see the Elk County Venango Catholic matchup. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. That should happen. Elk plays the winner of Du Bois Central and Coudersport, the 8-9 game. They'll be favored there. Smethport, the 4 seed, plays Northern Potter, the 13 seed. The winner of that game gets Venango versus North Clarion, the 5-12. Venango is the 5 seed. I might have had that wrong. They are the 5 seed. I don't think maybe I didn't say that.
North Clarion is an intriguing team, and I think that they get a bad spot in the bracket because
they're better than 12. Is what you're saying.
They're better than a 12 seed, I think, but this isn't a good matchup for them. I don't believe. No. I think that they're going to struggle with this matchup. I think they may be a year away from making a better run at things. They're very young. Right. Their best player is a freshman. Yeah. Their second best player is a junior. And arguably their third place player is a sophomore. So this is a young team that needs to get its feet wet in the playoffs. But it's a team that I do like, that I've seen a couple times, that I think is got some talent, but I don't like their matchup with Venango Catholic. I really like Venango Catholic on this side of the bracket.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that, Chris. Venango is a very good team. I think Friday night
very
proved
experienced
that.
Team.
Yeah.
When you talk about the biggest hurdle for Elk, it may not even rest. It may not be in the championship game because I don't know if they get there. If Elk plays to its, if Venango plays to its potential and Elk plays to its potential, Venango is the better basketball team.
Well, Venango is not the 5th best team in this bracket. You already alluded to that, and you're gonna see them play Venango in the semis.
Venango is a deep team, an experienced team, a state playoff team from last year, a team that's had to show up on a daily basis to win games. There was no easy passes outside of maybe Clarion, Limestone, and Forest area when they really got down to it this year. They've played a better schedule outside of District 9. They are a more battle-tested team than Elk County Catholic. Elk County Catholic is not – name me somebody who Elk County Catholic – we're talking about a potential – Andy, you're back in AAA, okay? I want to take back to AAA. Yeah. You're telling me that Bradford could win AAA at 6 wins over Punxsy. Yeah. Punxsy's the best win that Elk County Catholic has all year.
Punxsy's a good team. Like I said,
but you're talking about a 6-win team beating them potentially for a championship. Yeah. They can't be like this superstar team, and that is look. Elk's challenge here is to go out and prove Chris Rossetti wrong, because until they play somebody, until they actually they had an opportunity. This is a school that has an opportunity on both sides to go and play somebody because they don't have to be in 2 leagues. But they choose to be in 2 leagues, and because they're in 2 leagues, they don't end up playing the type of schedule that would make them good. And that's why you've only seen them win maybe 1 or 2 district titles the whole time we've been doing the website, despite them having these great records year in and year out. They have great records because the schedule allows them to have great records.
Let's get to the bottom of the bracket. Second seeded Port Allegheny. They were a third place team. Keystone was a runner-up. Some intriguing matchups here, guys. Is this Port Allegheny versus Keystone? Clarion's obviously dangerous. They have one of the best players in Macy Thornton as the 11th seed. First of all, can the Lady Cats get a road win to get that matchup and the rematch of the district finals? What do you think, Andy?
Richard, that to me is maybe, of all the brackets we're talking about here, the most intriguing first-round matchup to me is that Clarion-Otto girls matchup. Clarion is battle-tested. They're the defending district champions, have one of the best players in the district in Macy Thornton, all-state performer last year. Right. And you look at Otto, what a great turnaround Otto has had under first-year coach Barb Close. They have really done a fantastic job.
No relation, right?
No relation. Barb and I have had that conversation. But no, she has done a great job. And it's a team with an interesting dynamic. They have 2 seniors, Anna Colbert and Melody Young, who have been through, a lot of the losing and are really stepped up and are reaping the benefits, of this success and are really the leaders of that team. But at the same time, they also start a couple of freshmen, in Cameron Thomas and Allison Cousins. So really an interesting dynamic going on there at Otto. And I've seen them play quite a bit this year. And they, I know some people might look at that and say, well, that's one game where the seeds don't match up and Clarion's the better team. I'm not so sure. I think it's actually a very even matchup.
All right. Chris, the winner of that gets Keystone. Before we get to Port back with Andy, Keystone, boy, they're going to be obviously
I'm going to say this. I don't necessarily disagree with Andy that that's a tough matchup for Clarion. There's a team on paper that you think should be better than what they are, but they're 12-10, and they're 12-10 on merit, frankly. They're 12-10 because some days they show up and they're really, really good, and some days they just don't show up and they're not very good. Saw that last week. A week ago, Saturday, so it would have been the week, the 7th of February, they go up to North Clarion, and they look like a team that could win the district title. Mm-hmm. They play North Clarion on Monday and win by 1. They then battle Punxsy before losing late, and then they go down to AC Valley and lose. So it's hard to they are, to me, the hardest team in this bracket to say what could. They could go up to Otto Eldred and win by 40. They could go to Otto Eldred and lose by 20. That's the type of team they've been this year, and that's what makes them so intriguing. Macy Thornton's good enough to carry them to a win or two. She's going to need help. Somebody, whether it's Lauren Weiser, whether it's Anna Reed, whether it's Nikki Glenn, somebody's going to have to step up and be consistent if they want to make another run at a district title. They've won the last 2, but they're not really in a position to do it again. Keystone, on the other hand, which lost in the title game last year, which has suffered through some injury problems the last few years and had another one hit them this year and losing McKenna Schick. They became a better team for whatever reason after McKenna Schick went out. Jocelyn Gear and Taylor Gear really stepped up for them. Sometimes you look for a player to step up or two when somebody gets hurt, and that seems to be what happened to them, at least scoring-wise. And then you put a player like Maddie Johnson, who's going Division I basketball, to the whole mix. And she's the best player in Class A. I don't even think it's close. And she's good enough to take a team and take them to the top by herself. Her worst game of the year came Saturday up in Bradford when she scored 9 points, and they still won by 9. So you wonder, somebody's going to have to find a way to shut her down, and very few teams have done that.
Port Allegheny, Andy, the second seed could see Keystone, maybe Clarion in that other semifinal on the bottom of the bracket. They're going to play the winner of the 7 seed Cameron County, 10 seed AC Valley game. You've had a chance you've seen them quite a bit the last 2 years. What's this Port team like compared to last year? Are they better?
I don't think they're better. I don't think they're worse. I mean, obviously, when you lose an all-state player like Becca Lathrop, that's a tough loss. Other people have stepped up. Brooke Royce has really stepped up and become. She didn't have to be a dominant force every night last year, whereas I think this year she really has, and she's taken on that leadership role. Been in double figures in all but one game, I think. And I want to touch on Port Allegheny. I want to touch on the entire NTL as well. Christina Francis, Port's coach, we had this conversation not too long ago. Last year, they went undefeated in the regular season and really were maybe only challenged once or twice by Cowdy. This year, they only lose one game, but they're challenged an awful lot more. And I don't think that has as much to do with them taking a step back as opposed to other teams in the NTL taking a step forward. Otto is much improved. Cameron County is there. Smithport only lost 4 games this year. This is a league that talked about them, maybe doesn't match up, with that vaunted, KSAC South in terms of depth or talent, but it's really been a quality league this year.
Speaking of the font of that KSAC South, think about this with AC Valley, a 10 seed, and you want to talk about a team that can make a lot of noise coming out of a 10 seed. They've lost 10 times this year. One of them you could look at and go, boy, that wasn't a good loss, and even that was to North Clarion, who we just talked about being an up-and-coming team. Twice to Montauk, twice to Karn City, twice to Keystone, twice to Red Bank Valley, once to Venango Catholic. I mean,
that could be a misleading 10 team. That's for sure.
That I guess is what I'm getting at there. That's a team that don't be stunned if they pull out a state playoff berth out of it.
Yeah. Let's get to Class A boys. It's our last classification as we head into the final part of this show. We don't know when we'll ever be done here with Class A boys, but it is a 12-team bracket, one less than the girls. Our top 4 seeds all have byes. Nice little tidy bracket. Elk County Catholic, the top seed. Number 2 seed is Ridgeway. They'll be on opposite sides of the bracket. The 4 team is Clarion Limestone, and the 3 team is Cameron County. So if the seeds play out. It would be Elk County Catholic CL in the semis. It would be Ridgeway Cameron County in the other one. 4 teams go to states, and I just got this announcement in. They're going to use the shot clock in Class A boys only. That will change everything and really take a lot of this conversation down to the simple No, just kidding. Just kidding. There is no shot clock. Guys, are those the 4 state teams in some order? Let's start there. Is there anybody in this other? And I'll go through these in the prelim match games. Johnsonburg, the 8 seed, hosts Union. The winner gets Elk. The 5 seed Cowdy hosts Otto Elder. The winner gets CL. Venango, the 7 seed, gets North Clarion. The winner gets Ridgeway. DuBois Central Catholic, the 6 seed, gets 11 team. They host Oswego Valley. The winner of that gets Cameron. Is there anybody outside those 4 top seeds that are going to get to states? Could there be?
If anybody else gets to states, it's going to come out of that bottom bracket. Look, and I know people follow us on Twitter. They know I haven't been a big fan of the way Ridgeway plays. It's not a dislike of Ridgeway. It's a dislike for the way Ridgeway plays. It's a dislike for the fact that they play a style that tends to keep teams in games against them that maybe shouldn't be in games against them. They don't score enough points to blow anybody out. And when you can't blow people out, eventually somebody's going to sneak up and beat you. You saw that happen with Elk County Catholic. Now, not that Elk snuck up and beat them, but eventually you're going to start losing some close games. And the winner of the North Clarion-Venango Catholic game has enough talent that if shots are falling for them in a particular game against Ridgeway, that they could win that game and stun the whole world because of it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that team's going to be the favorite going into it. But the style that Ridgeway plays will tend to lead a team that maybe you don't think can beat them, end up beating them because they can't score. And frankly, they're averaging less than 50 points a game. If they can win the district title averaging under 50 points a game, it'll be something that hasn't been done in the 15 years that we've been doing D9 Sports, because no team has ever won a District 9 Class A boys title scoring less than 50 a game. At some point, yes, it's about stopping a team. At some point, you have to score to win. And if you can't score to win, you eventually don't win. And the other problem they're having, and we saw it last night, we saw it in their game against Meadville, we saw it in the game against Coudersport that they won, we saw it again last night against Elk County Catholic. They get leads, even in the fourth quarter, where it's 6 or 7, and you're thinking they're a defensive machine. They're a team that likes to take time off the clock when they've got the ball, and they're having trouble holding leads right now. And that may go down to the fact that they're playing a lot of young guards. Yeah. And the bigger the stage becomes, the harder it becomes for those young guards to be able to maintain their poise. And I think you're starting to see that a little bit as the season's gone down, especially against good teams. And that would be what would concern me about the Elkers being able to repeat, or maybe even making it back to states, would be if they get into a close game against the winner of the Venango North Clarion game, what happens when those teams have, especially a Venango team that has maybe some mismatch issues for them. A Venango team that played Elk County Catholic, if you remember, really tight last year at Brookville High School in the quarterfinals before losing. This is a Venango team that I think has more a bigger picture in mind than just making it back to the quarterfinals. So you wonder what happens in a situation like that. And then in the bottom half of that bracket, they haven't played, I think, to the potential that you thought maybe they would be, even though they're 18-5 right now. Du Bois Central Catholic against Cameron County. I like Cameron. Cameron is one of my teams to make it to the championship game right now. But they're still going to have that first round game and that thought in the back of their minds that they haven't won that game. And Du Bois Central Catholic played CL to overtime in the quarterfinals last year before losing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not necessarily a game that you can just look at and say Cameron wins, but it is a game, I think, if Cameron wins, they go to the finals.
Andy, your thoughts on the bottom part of that bracket? I think that's where you might see a top seed go. My pick would be Du Bois Central getting past Cameron. That's really the only one I see in the whole bracket. We've been talking about the bottom part of the bracket. Any thoughts there before we go to the top?
Yeah. Central, I like Central. Central's well coached. They're disciplined. They don't beat themselves. I really like Cameron. I think Cameron's on a mission. I know, Chris, and you alluded to it. It's a good point. They have those quarterfinal losses in the back of their mind. They played Cowdy twice this week. A good Cowdy team. One game was close. One game was a 30-point game. Honestly, the Cameron team that showed up in that first game against Cowdy this past week, that's the best team I've seen district-wide all year. We talk about all things being equal and teams playing up to their potential. If all of these teams play up to their potential, I believe Cameron County is the best team.
And Nate Sestina, we haven't said that name yet. He is a Division I recruit, Bucknell. So, and this guy, you might see a dunk if you go watch him. That's for sure. And he's not all about that, but he clearly is the driving force behind that Cameron County team. And we'll go a little bit deeper here, but let's go up to the top of the bracket. Elk County Catholic, the top seed. They play Johnsonburg or Union. CL plays Cowdy or Otto. Guys, I think the intriguing matchup of this bracket is a potential semifinal between Elk County Catholic versus CL. The Lions have not won a district title since 1961. They have the talent. We think from as far as depth goes, the most talent in this bracket. Can they break that curse, you could maybe call it? Get through, get a KSAC team a district title, a Class A team. It hasn't happened since Clarion in 2004. 2003. I didn't even go as far back. Maybe all that burden isn't on top of the Lions because these kids don't follow that, or maybe they do because of us making it so much big a deal about it. But RJ Ligan, they look very good Friday night as a team, and RJ didn't play his best game. That's how good CL is. They're deep. Joe Ferguson has them playing some defense. I mean, if they play defense, and he's been saying that all year, the key to them is winning defense, playing defense. Can Elk beat them? Of course they can. Yeah. They have beaten they've beaten teams like this all the time. Over the years. But how much does history play in it? It's a very compelling. It's a very compelling story.
Let's put it this way. If you were picking a final game based on history, whether it's recent or long term, then your pick is Elk County Catholic versus Ridgeway.
Yeah.
If you're picking it based on pure talent, right now this year your final is Clarion Limestone Cameron County.
Or who plays better as a team, and it could be Elk County or Ridgeway. You could throw that in there.
But once again, that goes into, I think, the entire history argument.
Perhaps.
Different thing, because I think all four of them play well as a team. That's what my point is. I don't think you can make the argument that CL's playing well as a team, Cameron's playing well as a team. You're seeing that because you saw that on Friday night with both teams.
Well, it could come down to who plays better as a team. Is my point. They are good teams. Who plays better? So it's a very. That's semifinal round. Don't miss it. I don't know where these games are going to be played. I don't know if they have a gym bigger than.
You would have to.
It has to be Tippin.
You have to would think this has got to be Tippin Gym. If those four teams are the semifinals and it's not at Tippin Gym, they're doing something wrong because they don't. But they don't have a place to fit them. And
where are you going to put Cameron Ridgeway other than Tippin? I mean, people are going to squawk.
And there won't be an empty seat in the house for that one.
You might have it at Pitt Bradford. I mean, I don't know.
You know what? I don't think you find very much squawking in the semifinals when it's at Tippin Gym because
it shouldn't.
Not in District 9 because unlike in the state, District 9 gets District 9 people understand where games should be based on the kind of crowds that they're going to get. And you can put 1,000, if you're going to put it at Pitt Bradford with 1,000 people, you may as well put it at Tippin with 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And if you double header it, then the district makes all kinds of money. And let's not act
Yeah.
like making money isn't important.
Believe
in the
me,
whole thing.
basketball playoffs make the district money, unlike some of the other sports. That definitely is the moneymaker. Guys, we're running out of time here. Andy, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think it sets up well for CL to get to the semis. Don't overlook Cowdy. I think a potential second-round matchup there with Cowdy and CL is going to be very entertaining. Cowdy may be a year away. They're good, a year away from maybe being really good. Their 3 top scorers are all underclassmen. They score a lot. CL scores a lot. I think that has the potential to be, even though I like CL in that matchup, the potential to be a very entertaining game.
The game that really intrigues me is the Union-Johnsonburg game, even though I don't think either of those teams can beat Elk County Catholic. I think that has the shapings of being a really, really good 9-8 game. Johnsonburg's has been maybe a little better this year than we thought they would be after losing Cameron Gummerly and Cole Peterson. Union nearly beat Cameron County earlier in the year. So, and Cole Morris is a heck of a player. So that game is a very intriguing game to me.
And just one more thing I want to mention before we really get into the nitty-gritty of all this. Otto is the 11th seed. Probably not going to win a game, although
12
you never
actually,
know.
Andy.
12
there
seed,
you go.
excuse me. This is a program that 2 years ago did not win a game.
Okay.
And now they're 11-win turnaround in 2 years in the district playoffs, so kudos to them.
Yeah. Well, that was nice of you to mention them. I mean, usually we don't get to the 12 seed in the Class A playoffs. Guys, let's get to predictions as we wrap up the show. And really, we could talk about Class A forever, guys. Let's put it. I think we hit the main points. That semifinal round is going to be rocking, let me tell you. Okay, let's get to predictions. We'll start with AAA. AAA boys, Andy.
AAA boys, Clearfield.
I say Clearfield. Chris, you get the last pick.
Clearfield.
Okay. Class A girls.
AAA, you mean?
Yeah. AAA girls. I'll start out this time. Punksy.
Punksy.
Punksy, close.
He's from Bradford. Okay, let's go to Double A boy or Double A girls. As I shift through my papers, I couldn't do it without it. Is it Karn City? I'll just throw out the obvious. Andy.
Karn City, with Red Bank being the other team that gets to the state playoffs.
I'll mention that. Chris, who's your finals matchup? Who wins?
Karn City over Red Bank.
I agree. Karn City over Red Bank in the Double A girls finals. Class Double A boys. Andy.
Cranberry over Port Allegheny.
Wow. Chris? I'm going to get some ideas from you, too.
Red Bank Valley over Karn City.
I'm going to go Karn City and Red Bank in the finals, and I'm going to go Bulldogs. I picked them last year, and they lost. That might be a curse. Sorry, Coach. That's what we'll go. Okay, single A. 4 teams go to states. Mention your – let's just give us your 4, how they finish.
We doing boys or girls?
Go girls. Same idea. The girls are top 4 go to states. Give us your 4. Who's in the finals, Andy? That's too big.
Tough.
Come on, you can't. Yeah.
I go Keystone over El Catholic.
Okay, Chris.
Venango against Keystone. Keystone. You know what? I'm going Venango wins it.
Over Keystone.
Over Keystone.
Who's the 3-4?
Elk County Catholic and AC Valley.
Ooh, interesting.
Andy, did I ask you for your 3-4?
You did not.
Well, who's your
But for the
3-4?
record, my 3 is Port Allegheny and my 4 is Venango.
I almost agreed entirely with Chris, and then he threw out the AC Valley. I'm going to go Venango and Keystone in the finals. Keystone over Venango, and the 3-4 will be Elk over Port. I'm good with that. Class A boys. Who are your 4 teams, Chris?
My 4 teams are Elk, Clarion, Limestone, Ridgeway, and Cameron County.
Okay. Who's in the finals?
Man. Elk and Ridgeway.
And the winner?
Elk.
Elk over Ridgeway in the finals, and then in the Concy you have CL and Cameron. Who wins?
CL.
So 3 is CL, 4 is Cameron County. Elks the champs, Ridgeway number 2. Andy.
Elk, CL, Ridgeway, Cameron.
Elk, CL, Ridgeway, Cameron's are the final 4. Who wins in the final? Who's your final team?
My final is Cameron County over Elk County.
Ooh, boy,
Cameron County over
wow,
Elk County.
That would turn District 9 on its head.
I like
I like
yeah,
it, but
that's
I mean
good.
that would turn District 9 on
Okay.
its head.
Concy, who wins third?
CL over Ridgeway.
CL over Ridgeway. I'm going. I'm going to go. Boy, this is tough. I think our top 4 seeds are going to states. That would be Elk, CL, Ridgeway, Cameron. You just got to go there. I think your best potential team not to go is Andy's district champ, in my opinion, is Du Bois Central. That's how much we're varying here.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Boy, I'm gonna go CL over Ridgeway in the district final. 1961,
Wow.
last chance, last title for the Lions. CL over Ridgeway and then Elk over Cameron in the Concy.
Am I really the only one that picked the safe one?
And yeah, that has not happened. I did not go safe. Andy definitely didn't go safe. And safe, what we mean is tradition. I tell you what, that semifinal matchup, those matches, I will not
Can't wait for 'em.
I will not be disappointed if I miss those picks at all because all those teams are deserving. That's the show this year. I hope you enjoyed it. We were trying not to be as long-winded as the past, but as you